तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। ॐ ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। Let's take a sankalp. Okay. So last class we saw that the Atma Anatma Viveka. Remember the Nitya Vastu and Anitya Vastu Viveka. We saw the difference between the observer and the observed. All that I experience is not me. Correct? And what else? The second point was that the attributes that I see, they belong to the experienced. They belong to the object. They do not belong to me. They belong to the Anatma. I am the Atma. I'm free from all the attributes. And so we had done the Nirvana Shatakam also, right? So everything that is listed in the Nirvana Shatakam, which we identify as ourselves, the body, the entire antakaranam, the senses, even our raga dveshas, even the shadvairis, which we associate with our ahankara only, no? We feel that, oh, this is me, this is me, this is me. And all that is negated. जो भी सब हम सोच रहे थे कि that this is me, this is me, this is me, all that is negated as anatma, and I am pure Satchidananda Atma. So we have to start to practice to disidentify with all these anatma aspects, and we have to learn to start identifying with the pure consciousness, with the pure existence, with Ananda as myself. Okay, Satchit Ananda, that is me. So the first step to attain in Jnana Yoga is understanding the consciousness. सबसे पहले तो वो understand करना है. When you enter Jnana Yoga, you do Shravanam, you do Mananam, you do Nididhyasanam on this aspect. That what is this consciousness? The five-featured Atma. We have seen the five features many times, so I'm not repeating them. So these five-featured consciousness is the first step, first understanding that happens in Jnana Yoga. Okay, to understand that Brahma Asti. Okay, so Atma or Brahman is there. Okay, that is the first step to understand. The second step is to identify with this Atma. पहले तो ये समझना है कि कॉन्शियसनेस है और कॉन्शियसनेस क्या है, आत्मा है, आत्मा क्या है. And then we have to, the second step is to identify with this Atma. Right? So until now, what happened? For infinite janmas, we have been identifying with this body, mind, sense complex only. So what are we doing? We are identifying with the costume instead of identifying with the real self. Right? We are identifying with the costume. And this association with the costume, it is so deep rooted that it takes a lot of nididhyasanam. It takes a lot of Vedantic meditation to unlearn this wrong identification and slowly start claiming the consciousness as I. So shifting the I from the body-mind-sense complex to the consciousness. That should be our process. And when we spontaneously, okay, when we absolutely, doubtlessly, spontaneously, जैसे एकदम spontaneously, कोई आपको नींद में से उठा के भी पूछेगा कि आप कौन है, तो you will say, okay, I am Charvi, or whatever, I am a mom, I am a teacher, so whatever roles you are associating with, you will immediately say those things. But that spontaneously, it should effortlessly, doubtlessly, we should start claiming that aham brahmasmi. So from Brahma Asti, we have to shift to Brahma Asmi. I am Brahman. So we have to stop feeling कि हाँ शायद, I hope कि मुझे मोक्ष मिल सकता है. Now that I have started learning Vedanta, maybe, मेरे chances of moksha have increased. ऐसा doubt भी नहीं रहना चाहिए. It should be an accepted fact naturally coming to you that aham brahmasmi. I am this ever-free consciousness principle. Okay. All right. So now in the last few sessions, we saw some important technical terms which are used in Vedanta Shastra. तो जब हमने तत्वबोध में एंटर किया, तो सबसे पहले we saw the sadhana chatushtaya, the fourfold qualifications which are required for learning and assimilating the teaching. ज्ञान योगा में ऐसे ही एंटर करेंगे तो कुछ फायदा नहीं रहेगा. The knowledge will only be an information at the academic level. For that knowledge to bring about a transformation, we need this sadhana chatushtayam, right? The fourfold qualification. I hope you remember them. Vivek, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatka Sampatti, and Mokshutva. And in Samadhi Shatka Sampatti, that sixfold wealth, उसमें क्या आता है? क्षमा, धमा, उपरमा, तितिक्षा, श्रद्धा, and samadhanam. So this is the fourfold qualification that we had seen. उसके बाद हमने क्या देखा था? Then we studied the shariratrayam, the threefold bodies of the jiva or the individual, right? उसके बाद we saw the avasthatrayam, the three states of experience, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state. So in which these three bodies play a predominant role. The shariratrayam, they play a predominant role in the three states of experience, right? And uske baad we saw the kosha panchakam, which is nothing but the shariratrayam only looked at from a different angle. So kosha panchakam means the 5 layers of human personality based on functions, functional division of the individual jiva. तो ये सब हमने देखा है ना. And उसके बाद we also understood that all these three, so the shariratrayam, the kosha panchakam, the avasthatrayam, all these three are not my true self, right? They are all anatma. They are an object of experience. That is also what we saw. And after that, we studied the Atma. We understood that Atma is an independent consciousness principle. It is different from the entire Anatma Prapanch, entire material Anatma world. So this Atma is a non-material consciousness principle. right? This is all that we saw. Then we saw the 5 important features of the Atma. It is Chaitanya Swarupa. It is Swatantra. It is Nitya. It is Nirguna. It is Sarvagata. And it is Eka. It is Advaita. All these terms are very significant. Okay, so we have to dwell on them. We have to try and meditate on all these features of Atma. That is how we'll get more and more familiar with it. It will become, we'll try to own it up more and more. The more you think about it, the more you identify with these aspects, right? So meditating on these aspects is very important. Then alone Vedanta can be grasped clearly. Then alone the true meaning can be assimilated. अभी हमको श्रवणम से ज्ञान तो सारा मिल गया है, पर उसको assimilate भी करना है ना. We have to digest it, no? Right. So all these topics that we saw abhi tak, so whether it is Shariratrayam, Kosha Panchakam, Avasthatrayam, all those topics, they are all associated with the individual or the microcosm, right? What we studied, it is the study of an individual Jivatma. Hence, this part of the study is called Jiva Vichaara. That is the study of an individual. It is the study of the microcosm. In Sanskrit, we use the word Vyashti for microcosm. Okay. तो अभी व्यष्टि विचार हो गया, जीव विचार हो गया. तो next topic is the discussion of समष्टि विचार or the analysis. जैसे हमने analysis of the microcosm किया, वैसे ही analysis of the macrocosm करना है. Or the creation of this entire universe, this Jagat. It is called Jagat Vichara. So before we get into this topic, the Samashti Vichara, before we get into that topic, I want to remind you, and I wanted to make a note that when we say Jagat, okay, Namaste Shivani, nice to see you after so many days. Yes. Yeah, so we are talking about, we've just entered today's topic. So until now, we have been looking at the individual, right? We have been looking at the microcosm. We've been looking at the jiva. We've been analyzing the jiva, right? Based on Shariratrayam, Avasthatrayam, Kosha Panchakam, correct? So now we are entering into Samashti Vichara. Okay, we are looking at the Jagat, the whole universe. So before we enter into this Jagat Vichara or the analysis of the microcosm, we need to remember, we need to remind ourselves that when we say Jagat, okay, or the creation of this universe, the macrocosm, so we are actually talking about nothing else but Ishvara himself. Let us just remind ourselves that how the Jagat and the Ishvara are same. हम ऐसा कैसे बोल रहे हैं कि Jagat Vichara is not different from Ishvara Vichara. How are they the same? Let us go back to a few months. We had done the topic of understanding of Ishvara, understanding God. See, Ishvara does not sit somewhere, okay? Ishvara does not sit somewhere else and create the world and then dump it down. Okay, that is not what Ishvara does. Ishvara himself evolves into the form of this world. So in the topic of understanding of God, we had seen that Ishvara is the intelligent cause as well as the material cause of the universe. I hope you remember the Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam of this Jagat, we had said. So Jagat Karanam Ishvara, we had, it is the second stage of understanding of God. Jagat Karanam Ishvara. I hope you remember that. Okay. So remember we had given the example of the spider, how the spider is the material cause as well as the intelligent cause of the web. Another example we had given was of the dream, that how we ourselves are the material as well as the intelligent cause of the dream, right? So it's the same way Ishvara also is the nimitta as well as the upadana karanam of this Jagat. So now in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna draws a very important corollary from this information, okay, or knowledge. Now see, if Ishvara is the cause, if God is the cause and the world or the Jagat is the effect, the important corollary that we get here is that there is no world separate from God. Kaise? There cannot be any effect separate from its cause. There cannot be any product which is separate from its cause. Right? So there cannot be any product which is separate from its raw material. Can it? Like, you can never say that gold is separate and bangle is separate. There cannot be a bangle which is separate from gold. There cannot be a pot which is separate from clay. Right? Clay is the cause, pot is the effect. So there cannot be a pot separate from clay. Pot itself, the clay itself evolves as pot. There cannot be water separate and wave separate. Water is the cause, wave is the effect, wave is the product. So water itself evolves into wave, right? In the same way, there is no world separate from God, because God himself is appearing or manifesting as the world, which means that world or Jagat is just another name for God himself, just a different configuration, a different name. So before starting the topic of creation, before starting the topic of cosmology, the creation of the Jagat and all, we need to have this very clearly in our minds, that when we are talking about Jagat, when we are talking about the entire creation, the entire universe, we are actually discussing Ishvara only, Ishvara Swarupam only. It is not different. ठीक है, ये एकदम clear हो गया? So now, with this understanding, we will enter the study of the Samashti, the analysis of the macrocosm. We will begin this study, the topic of Srishti or creation, creation of this cosmos, creation of this universe. So how does this cosmos or this creation come about? And what was there actually before the creation came about? So this is going to be our discussion. In Sanskrit, we call, so when we say creation, in Sanskrit, we call it Srishti. So before understanding the topic of creation, first, we should clearly know that the word creation itself, it is a misnomer. It is a very, very misleading term. When we say that the Jagat is created, the universe is created, it is a very big misnomer. It is a wrong name. And that can lead to a lot of confusion. So why do we say that the word creation is a misnomer? Because nothing can be created, right? The law of conservation of matter and energy, this law of conservation of matter and energy was given much before our modern scientists gave this energy and matter conversion theory. It was given by the Sankhya philosophers in their Satkaryavada. So we know it, right? That energy or matter, it can never be created, and hence it can never be destroyed also. It can just be transformed from one form to the other, energy to matter, matter to energy. In Mandukya Karika also, it is very beautifully presented by Gaudapada that nothing can be created. And hence, extending the same principle, nothing can be destroyed also. So that means the word creation, it only refers to the manifestation of something. Manifestation of something which was potentially existing only. It is just in its avyakta rupam. So what is unmanifest potentially? What is potentially existent? What is in its dormant state? That thing can come to manifestation. That is what we call creation. समझा? तो सच में creation कुछ नहीं है. It's just bringing the unmanifest to manifest. And the word unmanifest, it means pramana agocharam. Okay, it's Sanskrit term pramana agocharam. Pramana agocharam means, pramana means there is no proof for it. There is no, we cannot perceive it. Okay, it cannot be, it is not available for perception or transaction. Just like the butter in the milk. Butter, ghee, curd, everything comes from milk only, right? So that means all these things, butter is already there in the milk. We cannot just see that butter in the milk. We cannot see it at this point when the milk is in its milk form. We cannot see the butter. But the butter is potentially there in the milk, no? We know that milk has butter. So butter is existent or not existent? Technically, butter is existent, right? But since it is not available for perception or transaction, we assume that butter is not existent. So we can extend this understanding to everything in the creation. Nothing in the creation is non-existent. First, it was existent in its potential form, in its unmanifest form, which means it was not available for transaction. And later, it becomes manifest, which means it becomes available for transaction. And that is what we call creation. That is what we call Srishti. So, extending this principle, our scriptures point out that before the origination also, this cosmos, this world should have existed because of the law of conservation. And if creation existed before, it should have existed in which form? In unmanifest form, in the potential form, dormant form, which we call the seed of the creation. In fact, we use the word bijam, bij, seed. So this unmanifest, untransactable form is called the causal form of matter. And this causal form of matter is the source of all forms of energy, all forms of matter. जैसे हमने जीव विचार में, what did we see? Yes, Siddharth ji, you have a question?
The unmanifested creation you are talking about is regarding the only earth part, am I right? Non-matter creation.
Not only earth, the entire universe, entire known and unknown universe, the entire universe, entire creation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Including living matters, right?
Yes, yes. everything that is there in this universe. So this causal matter, okay, which is the source of all forms of energy and all forms of matter, it is similar to the Karana Shariram, which we saw in when we were understanding the individual. Okay, Jiva Vichara mein jo Karana Sharira hai, in Samashti Vichara also, this is the causal matter. This is the causal prapancha, the causal universe that we call. Okay, so according to our scriptures, that basic stuff, which is the source of all forms of energy, all forms of matter, it includes all particles or all molecules, all planets, galaxies, everything is, it is the causal matter. And that causal matter, that Samashti Karana Shariram, if we can say, the Samashti causal universe, that is what we call Maya. Okay, so the word Maya, like, so it sounds like such a mystical word and all, you know, when it's all Maya, but this is what is really Maya. It is the source of all forms of energy, all forms of matter, of everything. It is the Karana Prapancha, the causal universe. So that means that before the creation originated, okay, one thing was there, Maya, right? Everything was in its unmanifest form, which we call Maya. So before this creation, as we see it, before it was there was one thing which was Maya. But based on our previous study, we know that there was one more thing also before the creation, right? We saw that Atma, the consciousness principle, which is the non-material, the spirit, it does not come under matter. So it does not even come under time, space. That Atma, that consciousness principle, it is eternal. We've already seen that it is Nitya. So before the creation of the universe as we know it, there was Maya, and along with Maya, there was this consciousness principle also. The consciousness principle, which is the spirit principle, the non-material principle, plus Maya, which is the matter principle, the material, the anatma principle. Obviously, it is anatma, right? Because it is the source of all the anatma that is coming in, right? So it is anatma. So Atma, or the consciousness principle, plus Maya existed before the Srishti, before what we call the creation. These two things existed. And in the context of cosmology, in the context of creation, this consciousness principle, the Atma that we said, it is given another name. In the context of individual, in the context of the jiva, in the context of the micro level, vyashti level, what do we call the consciousness principle? We call it the Atma, right? But the same consciousness at the macro level, the consciousness at the samashti level, it is given the name Brahman. So only the names are different. It is the same consciousness. So Satchit Ananda, or consciousness, existence, and infinite principle associated with the individual jiva is called Atma. And the same Satchit Ananda, or the consciousness, existence, and infinite principle underlying the whole universe, associated with the Jagat, with the whole universe, is called Brahman. This might be a little confusing, so I'll give you an example, उससे एकदम clear हो जाएगा. Again, let's take our favorite example, the pot. एक pot लेते हैं. So there is space inside the pot, right? There is space within the pot. We call it pot space or ghatakash. In Sanskrit, space means akasha, right? So ghata akasha. So pot space or ghatakasha. So the space inside the pot is called ghatakasha, but there is space outside the pot also, correct? There is space inside the pot, there is space outside the pot. The space inside the pot is called ghatakash, and the space outside the pot is what we call mahakash. Okay, the universal space. So the pot space and the universal space or the space. Okay. Now tell me, are the pot space and the outside space different from each other? Are there two spaces? Just cognitively, in your imagination, just break the pot. Just break the pot. Kya hoga? When you break the pot, what happens? The pot space and the outside space, they are just one. They are non-different. So the pot space and the universal space, that means the ghatakash and the mahakash, they were just separated only by the boundaries of the pot. When you mentally remove the boundaries, it's just one complete whole. It's just one complete undivided space. In the same way, Atma, we can consider Atma like the pot space. Okay, the ghatakasha. And it is underlying the jiva, the individual consciousness. And Brahman, we can understand it like the mahakasha, the space outside the pot. It is the universal consciousness. But it is not different from Atma. Just cognitively remove the boundaries of the body and you will realize that the individual consciousness and universal consciousness are not different. They are just one. Yes, 𝐒𝐻𝐴𝐺𝐺. Question?
So this pot you are mentioning is our consciousness, right? The outer layer of the pot is our consciousness, not the body, right?
No. The pot boundaries, okay, the wall of the pot, jo clay ka bana hai, wo wall, that is like the boundaries of our body. Okay, of all the panchakoshas we can say. Within the pot there is space, correct?
Okay.
So within the pot jo space hai, usko hum ghatakash bolte hai. So you can understand, it's just for understanding I'm giving this example. Ki when the consciousness is associated with an individual jiva, we call it Atma. Ab pot ke bahar bhi space hai na? Space is everywhere. So that outside space and the inside space, they are not different from each other. Ek baar pot tod ke dekh lijiye, dono ek hi space ho jayega. So same way you have to understand that Brahman, when we say the universal consciousness, the consciousness which is underlying the entire universe, it is not different from the Atma. Just for understanding sake, we call it Atma, we call it Brahman. Got it? Just like Ghatakash and Mahakash, pot space and outside space. Understood?
Yes.
So, Atma is equal to Brahman, is equal to consciousness. So, Satchidananda Atma and Satchidananda Brahman, they are one and the same. So, what is the basis of these two names? One is from the micro angle, like the Ghatakash, which we call Atma. Other is from the macro angle, the Brahma or Brahman, When we say Brahma, then don't get confused with Chaturmukha Brahmaji, okay? Sitting on the lotus. We are not talking about Brahmaji. Huh? Brahman is the consciousness principle. Okay? So, Shariratrayam plus Atma is individual Jiva. And Maya plus Brahman is what we call Ishvara, or this whole universe, Vishwarupa Ishvara. Is this understood? We have said, continuously we've been saying that we, the Jiva, we are a mixture of Anatma plus Atma. Shariratrayam plus Atma. Correct? So Shariratrayam plus Atma is individual Jiva. Barabar? In the same way, Maya is the causal form of all the matter, all the energy, right? So Maya plus the Brahman, Maya plus the consciousness principle, that is what forms the whole Jagat as we see it, the whole universe as we see it. So Shariratrayam plus Atma is individual Jiva, and Maya plus Brahman is universal, is the whole universe, is the Ishvara, is the Vishwarupa Ishvara that we call. Right? It is just Shariratrayam plus consciousness principle, or Shariratrayam or Maya plus consciousness principle. Shariratrayam plus Satchidananda is individual Jiva. Maya plus Satchidananda is Ishvara, or this universe. Right. So now there is a surprise element that ye kaise ho sakta hai ki, what exactly are we saying here? Are the Shastras trying to say that the essence of myself and the essence of Ishvara is one and the same? Because Shariratrayam plus consciousness principle was Jiva, and Maya plus consciousness principle is Ishvara. So, the essence of the Jivatma and the essence of the Paramatma, are they one and the same? So, the Shastra says, yes, the essence of Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same. So, your true self and the universal self, Ishvara's true self, they are one and the same. This is the biggest revelation of the Vedas. This is the Sar of Vedanta. Jiva Ishvara Aikyam. The non-difference, the oneness between Jiva and Ishvara. This Aikyam, this oneness is what is revealed by entire Vedanta. All our study of the Vedanta leads to this culmination. Jiva Ishvara Aikyam. And this is what is revealed by the Upanishads in the form of Mahavakyas. There are many Mahavakyas, and all the Mahavakyas, they just reveal this fact. Jiva Ishvara Aikyam, the oneness of the individual and the Ishvara. So these are the four most popular Mahavakyas. I'm just showing them here so that you are aware of the Mahavakyas. So Prajnanam Brahman means this consciousness is Brahman. It is. So these four Mahavakyas, no, they are taken from the four different Vedas. Okay. So there are lots of Mahavakyas in all the Upanishads, but these four are popular because they have one from each Veda. So Prajnanam Brahman, consciousness is Brahman. That comes in the Rig Veda. Then the second one is Aham Brahmasmi. Very popular. I am Brahman. I am not different from Brahman. This comes from the Yajurveda. Then Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi, the most popular one. Tattvamasi. Tat means that. So that Ishvara, that Paramatma is you yourself. That thou art. So that Paramatma is you yourself. This is from the Samaveda, Tattvamasi. And Ayam Atma Brahma. So this self is Brahman. This is from the Atharvana Veda. So all the Mahavakyas, they talk about this Aikyam only. This oneness only. The non-difference or the oneness of the Jiva and the Ishvara. Hitarji, is there a question?
Is this similar to the modern science that they have mentioned theory called
Everything.
black hole or something?
Yeah, so the modern science is trying to reach a theory for everything, right? Where they can consolidate everything that is there in the universe, right? The subatomic particles se leke galaxies tak, the underlying principle. Yes, the modern science is trying to reach that, but yeah, you can say that it is similar. So yeah, so these Mahavakyas, they are talking about the Aikyam of the Jiva and the Ishvara. So now the question comes that, Arey, ye kaise possible hai? I mean, how is that even possible? Because Ishvara is Sarvagnya, Sarvavyapi, and Sarvashaktiman. Whereas I, the Jiva, I am Alpagnya, I am Alpavyapi, I am Alpashaktiman. So how can both these be same? How can both these be one and the same? How is that possible? So Ishvara and I not only seem different to each other, but we are diametrically opposite, right? That is the question that will come in our minds. Ki kaise? How are we one? So yes, you're right. It seems that way. It seems that Jiva and Ishvara are diametrically opposite because we are looking at the Vachyartha. Vachyartha means direct meaning of Jiva and Ishvara. The direct, the visible meaning of the word Jiva and Ishvara, the apparent meaning. So directly dekhne se to both appear to be polar opposites only. Ishvara is all-knowing, Ishvara is all-pervading, Ishvara is all-powerful. And I, the Jiva, I hardly know anything. I mean, where to talk about all-knowing? I don't know anything about myself. I don't know about my husband, my child, I don't know about anything. I have such limited knowledge as a Jiva. And how can I be all-pervading? I can't even go from idhar se andheri tak without a car. I can't go. Like, how can I be same as all-pervading Ishvara? And Ishvara is all-powerful, omnipotent. I can't even pick up a 5 kg ka dabba. How can I be omnipotent like Ishvara? So here we have to understand that when we look at the individual Jiva and Ishvara from the Vachyartha angle, from the direct angle, they will both look like poles apart. He will look like the Swami and I will look like the Dasa. But we have to look at them from the Lakshyartha angle. Lakshyartha angle means the implied meaning, the underlying meaning, the essence of both. मतलब जब जीवा और ईश्वरा दोनों अपने costumes निकाल देंगे, then you will understand that Jiva is actually Atma only wearing the costume of the 3 bodies. I am tall, I am short, I am fair, I am fat, I think, I am intelligent, I am dull. All these attributes, they are just costumes. Those are the costumes I wear in order to play my role, which I have been given as per my prarabdha. Right? If I am a jiva, I wear, if I am a human being, I wear this shariratrayam. If I am a tiger, I wear a tiger costume. If I am a rabbit, I wear a rabbit costume. Right? So I get this role based on my prarabdha. So I am actually nothing but Atma wearing the Shariratrayam costume. Right? And when you look at the Lakshyartha or the underlying meaning of Ishvara, you understand that this Sarvavyapi, Sarvashaktiman, Sarvagnya, Nimitta Upadana Karana Ishvara is just Brahman wearing the Maya costume. Ishvara is just Brahman wearing the Maya costume and manifesting as this Sarvagnya, Sarvavyapi, Sarvashaktiman Ishvara, the Paramatma. So it is just Brahman wearing the Maya costume. It is just Brahman wearing the Maya costume and manifesting as the whole universe. Just say individual is just Atma wearing the Shariratrayam costume and manifesting as the individual. Vaise hi Ishvara is Brahman wearing the Maya costume and manifesting as the universe. So when you look at them superficially from Vachyartha angle, they will appear as different. But when you look at them essentially from Lakshyartha angle, both Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same only. So to explain this Vachyartha and Lakshyartha, so Vachyartha means a direct meaning and Lakshyartha means an implied meaning. Shastra gives a very, very nice example of Soyam Devadatta. Okay, Soyam Devadatta, ye yaad rakhna hai. It's a very, very famous example and very nice example. So suppose, say, when you were in school, okay, in the year, say, 1985 or something, huh? So, आप छोटे थे 1985 में, there was a boy in your class and his name was Devadatta. Okay. Now, this boy Devadatta in 1985 in your school, he was a really tiny, lean, ekdam dubla, patla, Vichaara sa bachcha tha, huh? So you remember that, yeah, Devadatta was there in my class, who was like, you know, such a lean child, Vichaara, like, you know, that kind of a boy. Now, fast forward to the year 2022. Now, in 2022, suppose you are sitting with a friend of yours in a cafe. Okay. This friend's name is, say, Ram. Okay. So Ram and you are sitting in a cafe and suddenly a really tall, okay, a very tall, huge, a fat guy with really thick mustache and a big long beard, wearing thick gold chains, wearing thick gold bracelets, and ऐसे एकदम गुंडा जैसा आदमी कैफे में एंटर करता है. As soon as your friend Rama sees this person, this huge fellow, Rama says, and Rama looks at him and he says that, Hare, Soyam Devadatta. Soyam Devadatta means Saha Ayam Devadatta. Means, Hare, he is that Devadatta. He is that Devadatta. And you say, which Devadatta? Now Ram says that this is the same Devadatta who was in our class, say in first standard. Remember in 1985, he was there in our class. Now you are just not ready to believe only. Because 1985 का वो जो देवदत्ता था, he was so tiny, he was so lean, एकदम timid सा बच्चा था. So he was totally different from this 2022 Devadatta. 2022 Devadatta is tall, huge, and like a gunda. He doesn't look like that timid child who was there, right? But when you talk to this Devadatta, you hear about his childhood stories, you realize that, hare, ये तो वही देवदत्ता है, सोयम देवदत्ता, saha ayam devadatta. He is that devdatta only. He is the same devdatta. So superficial attributes of both the devadattas might be totally opposite, but in essence, both the devadattas, the 1985 devadatta and 2022 devadatta, are one and the same, right? Guna, or the superficial characteristics of 1985 Devadatta, are opposite to the 2022 Devadatta. So Vachyartha of both the Devadattas might be totally different. But Lakshyartha, they are both same. They are both one and the same. They are non-different. Similarly, we look at Jiva without its attributes, without its costume. Then I, the Jiva, and the Atma, I, the Jiva, and the pure consciousness. And when we look at Ishvara without his Maya costume, then he is Brahman, again the pure consciousness. Hence Lakshyartha, or essentially, Ishvara and I are one. We are non-different. So the Lakshyartha is Aham Brahmasmi. I am Satchidananda Brahman. And this is what all the Mahavakyas say. Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, Prajnanam Brahman, all of them. All the Mahavakyas say this only. This is what they mean. This is called Jiva Ishvara Aikyam. Knowing yourself as non-different from Ishvara. Knowing yourself as the Satchidananda Brahman. And knowing yourself as one with Ishvara. In essence, all of the entire Vedanta, all the Upanishads, this is the only thing that they have to teach. The culmination of Jnana Yoga is nothing but the assimilation of this knowledge. तो अभी हमको सेल्फ नॉलेज तो मिल गया, अभी हमको वननेस नॉलेज तो मिल गया, but the culmination of our sadhana is the assimilation of this knowledge. And moksha is nothing but firmly being established in this knowledge. Having aham brahmasmi iti akhandakara vritti. It is there in the Gita Bhashyam. Shankaracharya says that we should have this aham brahmasmi iti akhandakara vritti. Akhandakara vritti means just like a waterfall, non-stop, like continuous akhandakar without a break. If they say that pure ghee, if it is poured from one container to another, the stream of the ghee that is formed, that is akhandakar. It doesn't break in between. And that is how that kind of vritti, that kind of mental attitude is what uninterrupted thought that I am Brahman, aham purna, aham ananta. And once you are firmly established in this knowledge, you can never claim yourself to be this limited body, limited mind, limited sense consciousness. And then you will not identify with the problems of this body, mind, sense complex. You will never be shaken by this limiting thought that I am the jiva. So then it will all become objectifying of the problems. Then you will no more identify with the problems also. Then all your problems also become mithya only. They are anatma only. They are temporary. So this akhandakara vritti of aham brahmasmi, this is what is called moksha. Okay, and we will discuss this topic of cosmology further and in the next class, and we'll complete how actually the universe comes into being, the universe as we see it, how actually what ingredients are mixed together and how does it come into being. We'll see that in the next class. Yes, question.
So, so what would be the purpose of creation? Why Lord created Maya and Mithya?
So the creation is basically a field for operation for the jiva. Okay, why do jivas come into being? In order to experience the phalam of their karmas. That is how the jivas come into being, right? Now, in order to experience the karma phala, you need a field, right? You need an environment, you need an infrastructure. Only then you will be able to experience the karma phala, right? If the universe is not there, how does the jiva experience the karma phala? The whole cycle is only because of this karma phalas, the karma phalas from the infinite janmas, the anadi janmas. So that is the purpose of the whole field of operation. Yeah.
There should be a point where there are no living beings, right? In the creation, like
everyone will get moksha like that.
Huh?
Everyone will get moksha like that.
No, that time I think, as per my understanding, all the jivas are at a different planet, or I'm not sure about that particular situation where no living beings are there on the planet. I think there is one situation where, am I right? Where
so if you're talking about the different lokas and all, my study of the karma kanda part, the Veda Purva Bhaga, is close to, like, it's really limited. So I can't talk about the the lokas, but I can tell you this, that either in the Bhagavad Gita also it is written that either the universe, which includes all the jivas, either it is in the unmanifest state, in between it comes in the manifest state, and it goes back to the unmanifest state. So matlab actually technically देखेंगे तो ऐसा कभी भी time नहीं होता जब there are no jivas. They are always there, either in the manifest or unmanifest form.
Okay.
So, and depending on their prarabdha, they are present in different times. Like, depending on the prarabdha of dinosaurs were there during that age, right? So, us samay, the jivas were not there. Probably we were dinosaurs. Maybe our prarabdha package fructified like that and we were dinosaurs. We don't know. But the same way that we are right now in a peaceful country. We are not there in Afghanistan. We are not there in Syria. So same way, we were probably not there at that time. Our prarabdha fructified to be here at this time. So jivas were there at that time also, even when the human beings were not there. Okay, so, and when none of this was there, when the Srishti only was not there, that means the Srishti was there in the Maya form, in the unmanifest form, in the seed form. तो फॉरेस्ट अभी दिख नहीं रहा है, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि वो नहीं है, सीड तो है ना, seed has the potential to turn into the entire forest. Okay?
Thank you.
Right. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shant Shant Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Hari Om. Does anyone else have any questions? All right. Thank you.